Okay, finally. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Visionaries, Luminaries, and Divine Disruptors. I'm so excited about this group. Let's see if we can keep our bandwidth so that we can have this video. So let me make sure that I'm live in the right group. Hello, say you're here. Let me know you're here if you're watching the replay later on. Hashtag replay. And say hello. I'm so excited. I could not wait until next week, so I wanted to do this little impromptu talk. Hi, Patricia. I'll be seeing you in the ethers later, right after this. Hello, Jante. I'm going to wait for more of you to jump on here. Okay, let me see if I'm in the right place. So, okay, there I am. So real quickly, before we talk about today's topic, welcome. I am celebrating you. I am celebrating this group. It is so timely to have this group. It is so important right now to have this group. I'm excited about the work we're going to do together in here. It's super cool. It feels super aligned. And as I close out my 1,700 member group, We Are New Earth, this feels like a beautiful segue of the energy and a better use of the energy, because I feel that this is an opportunity to create more engagement for us. And the thing about me and who I am and how I like to teach and share, I want to speak to a hungry and eager audience. And when I'm not, it just, my energy just feels like it's not being accepted in the way that I would like it to be accepted. And I feel that I put a lot of inspiration and excitement and ecstatic joy and passion into what I teach. And I feel that there needs to be a good potential. And so the internet may go in and out. That's just going to happen because I have poor bandwidth here in the daytime, unfortunately. So we'll roll with it. I know it does feel ecstatically beautiful. I'm so excited. All of the lives that we're going to do in here, all that stuff, it's going to be grouped into the guides. So everything for April, guide 1 will be April. Guide 2 will be May. So anything that you need to find that we're doing in the group, that includes journal prompts, that includes the live videos, talks that may be on Zoom, etc., guided meditations that are for that month, it will be labeled April 22, May 2022. So that you can group everything and go back to stuff, because we live busy lives and we can't always attend everything live. So as a way of grouping it so it's easy for you to find, it will be by month in the guides. So this is our trial membership. So those of you who have joined, you've joined for half the price of this membership group. It will not stay $44 forever. I have a feeling it will go up eventually. When? I'm not sure, but it won't be till at least the very end of the year. So, as I move into this content and deliver more value and more wisdom and am able to share things and cultivate engagement with you guys even more, that price may go up. But for now, if you want to stay in the group after April 30th, it will be $44 a month, and it will be billed monthly on the 30th of every month. It will be in the member vault so that you can, cancel your membership anytime. You can always reach out to me and say, hey, Catherine, I don't want to move forward with the group. That's okay. Totally cool. You can cancel your membership anytime. But for those of you who want to stay in, it will be renewed monthly on the 30th of every month. And I'll have a link towards the end of April for you to sign up for the monthly membership in my member vault. Okay, that's my product suite of all of my online courses and programs. But for right now, we're going to enjoy this trial membership of 2+ weeks or so. And I've got it jam-packed for the next 2 weeks. So I will have a schedule in here that I'll pin it in the featured post, the announcements for this group, so you can see the date and time for everything that's going to happen for April, and so that you can mark your calendars and get ready for all of that. And I'll do that at the beginning of every month so that you'll see what's going on for May, June, July, etc. This is something that I invite you to have your own notebook or journal for, that's exclusively for this group, for the things that you're going to be exploring and creating in this group. Have your own journal just for this. It's good to not have it be confused with even other programs or courses you might be taking with me. Have this be separate. It will help to keep your thoughts nice and clean and clear on what you're working on, what you're creating. What else did I want to say about that? So this is a little pre-party. So I'm so excited. Hi, Carolyn. I'm so excited you're all here. This feels like a really aligned group of women. Everyone who's signed up, I feel very excited to work with them. Many of you I've worked with before. A few of you I have not worked with before. So I'm excited that we will be in each other's sphere and orbit. What to expect in this group? So I'm going to put forth stuff that's going to, as I usually do, push you a little bit, challenge you a little bit. And we're going to talk about that in terms of visionary energy. The way that we're going to ground visionary energy on this planet is not going to feel like we're pushing certain outcomes, but you might feel pushed, okay? But I invite you, as we go through this material, as we do this work together in the membership group, to go into this energy of feeling pulled, rather. Because there is a softness in the visionary energy that's taking hold on this planet. It's very feminine. And there's a softness, and it's kind of a pulling. And the only way we can really respond to that is through a willingness to be led, rather than kind of a hyper masculine energy of trying to push or force outcomes. That's part of a creative matrix that is dying out. And what we're being pulled to rather now is looking at like the bigger picture of things, and then being able to kind of zoom out in this way and then zoom back in to see the smaller details, the minutia, all the moving parts. We're going to talk about that quite a bit in here. I'm going to talk about it a little bit today in our discussion. But I invite you to be open and have an energy in this group of a willingness to be led, a willingness to be open to different perspectives on ways you might have thought that things have been before. I invite you to be really open in your heart. Have a willingness to be led from here rather than here, because the mind can't always be trusted, unfortunately. But the heart is the command center of higher consciousness, and we have to develop a willingness to be led from this part of ourself, okay? So if anything that I'm saying, anything that you're hearing in here kind of tugs at you here, that's a time for deep listening and surrender, because that's another part of visionary energy. Because the visions that are going to lead us forward into the innovation that's required to create a new earth, it's not going to look like things looked before. And so, when we get too much in our heads, we think that, oh, well, this is totally unfamiliar. This must be crazy, or this is totally out of sorts or out of the box in the way that things were done before, handled before. That's exactly the sweet spot we want to be in. When we are led by this energy of, ooh, that doesn't look like anything that's been there before. That doesn't feel like something that I've experienced before, but it does feel kind of enticing. It does feel alluring. There's something provocative about it. There's something that makes me want to follow it and see where it takes me. That's the kind of energy you want to cultivate in here, okay? Visionary energy is exciting. Visionary energy it's like a soft kind of pulling, okay? And we can only really tune into that from a place of deep listening and surrender. And that doesn't come from up here. It comes from here, okay? So we'll talk about this a lot more in here. Today I want to focus on, in our little pre-opening kind of celebration and discussion, tapping into visionary potential. I want to talk about what energy is, and I did discuss that for just a second. But I want to talk about certain qualities, okay, visionary qualities of someone who is a visionary, a luminary, a divine disruptor. Luminaries here are literally leading lights on this planet. That means that there is something throughout all of these qualities, the visionary, the luminary, the divine disruptor. There is something about the presence of this kind of personality that is magnetic. You draw people to you, you draw ideas to you, you draw certain concepts, new ways of thinking, feeling, even believing to you, okay? But it's because you have this kind of willingness to, and I call it like, it's the energy of the more you learn, the less you know. Because we can know a lot about a lot of things on this planet. But as we learn more, we realize how little we actually know. Sometimes when we read about history or we learn a certain nuance about something, maybe we knew a broad stroke type of knowledge of something before. And then we start to learn the details of something. We start to realize, wow, there's a lot more to this than I ever thought. We can do this even in something. A good example is learning about the Vedas, learning about the Hindu Vedas. There is so much information in that. When I studied the Vedas and studying about time and timelines, because there's a lot written into the Vedas about time, because they talk about different ages and eons and where we are and where human consciousness relates into these different ages and eons. It's almost like this convolution of so much energy that it's really hard to decipher, and it is. I mean, scholars spend years and years and years talking about the Vedas. Same thing with something like the Talmud in Judaism. There's so much to explore. There's so much allegory. There's so many layers. That's life. We're taking one thing that's, I'm talking about some kind of dogmatic things here, but those are just examples. There's so much to know about life. And our willingness to be led really has to do with a kind of surrender to the fact that we know nothing. We know nothing. And I find that being in this kind of state of energy allows us to be a blank slate and allows us to be incredibly receptive. And there's like a secret sauce in that for visionary energy. That's what's really rolled up in the willingness to be led, is this receptivity. And the receptivity can only really be totally open and untainted, ready to, receive, when we make ourselves this kind of blank canvas. Yesterday, I attended a really wonderful women's group that I just joined here in Bellingham. So Bellingham is my new home in Washington State, in the Pacific Northwest of the United States, way, way up near Vancouver, Canada. And I moved here at the end of August, early September last year. And, slowly as we've come out of COVID and things are starting to open up again, we have this, genuine need to get back together again with people in a more personal space, more one-to-one experiences. And I've been craving that and asking for that. And lo and behold, last week I was at my hairstylist who's lived here her whole life. I told her what I do, and I shared with her, I'm a coach, I'm 100% online, but I'm really craving a more personalized experience in what I do and share. And I want to collaborate with other women, connect with other women who are also, professional women in business. And she said, oh, you must know about this place that's in downtown Bellingham that is a connection hub for women in business. And it's a place of collaboration. It's like a co-work space, and it's also a place where they offer all kinds of workshops and speaking engagements and things like that. And so I signed up right away. And yesterday was our first connection breakfast, they call it. So we meet at 7:30 in the morning, and it goes until 9, and we have breakfast. We meet new people, and we kind of network and collaborate and make new friends. I made some new friends, and that's very exciting for me because I haven't made new friends in a long time. And I got to connect with other women, and we enjoyed a live speaker as well. And even though the woman doing the speaking speaks to a lot of the things that I speak to. And in my mind, thinking, oh, that's old hat. I know that. I've been talking about that for years, but I had to stop myself at a certain point and say, you know what? If I can remain supple in my thinking, if I can remain flexible and I can remain open and create the mantra within that I know nothing, then I can be open to a different perspective. And with that different perspective, I can allow it to feed what I already know, or let it fill in the gaps of what I don't know. And let that lead me to something even more exciting, even more filled out, even more wholesome. And having that kind of energy is exactly the kind of suppleness of mind, the flexibility of thinking that we need in order to cultivate our visionary potential. To be open to new ideas and concepts, or even a different way of working something that's already there. In other words, kind of reinventing the wheel, because that is what is required here on planet Earth at this time. That's what I call the energy, picking up the pieces from the great Earth reset that we experienced over the last 2 years plus is really about reinventing the wheel. That's what we're after. That's what we need to be doing. And so how can we do that? How can we rethink? How can we rethink and rebuild something that's already there? Right? We got to have this kind of willingness and be in this place of, I know nothing. I can be a blank slate. Right in that moment where you make that declaration, it's also making a declaration of, I'm willing to be led. I'm willing to be led and be in a solution-based state of being. I'm open in my body. I'm open in my mind. I'm supple in my thinking. I'm allowing my thoughts to be fluid and open and not tethered to, oh, I already know that. So yesterday was a really good reminder for me. And I invite you to do the same thing in life. Even when you're reading someone else's Facebook post, you might scroll through like, oh, I already know that stuff. Well, maybe you're not, entirely open in that moment to that person's perspective. Yeah, maybe they offer the Akashic records like you do, but maybe they have a different spin on it or a different take on it. There's so much available to you in just being open. And we don't know where it's going to lead us. That's the thing. When we remain supple in our thinking, we don't know where it's going to lead us. But if we can be open to knowing that definitely takes us somewhere, I'm curious about where that might be. That's the moment. That's the Eureka moment. That's the energy you want to open up to in here, okay? So I know I might be belaboring the point here, but I really want to, make it pretty clear as a foundation for receiving energy as a visionary, as a luminary, as a divine disruptor, meaning the divine disruptor here to disrupt the old patterning of the consciousness loops of just the way it is, the way it's been, the way it's always been on planet Earth. Those are broken systems. They need disrupting. They need interrupting. And those of you who resonate in the same kind of energy that I do, I feel that my place here, part of my mission and purpose is to disrupt these old paradigms, structures, and systems that are broken. They don't serve, in other words, the needs of the many. They've only served the needs of the few. I'm here in what I teach, what I share, the light that I hold, to disrupt that. But to help people anchor in and bring in something new, something more wholesome, something entirely more beneficial for the wholeness of humanity. That's a lofty goal. Is it impossible? No. And I can be open to the fact that I will never see the culmination of the highest timeline of this planet, not while I'm alive here in this timeline anyway, not in this lifetime. But that's okay. Because I know that it's part of my soul's journey to bring a foundation, help to anchor that, ground that, bring it in, that lays a kind of base for something to be built that is much more wholesome, much more beneficial, that builds unity consciousness out from the ground up. So I'm okay with that. That's the legacy of light I want to leave behind. What's the legacy of light you want to leave behind? And I invite you to dream big. Is it a lofty goal to think that something I might teach or share or leave behind as a book, a speaking engagement, a course, an online program, might, be around long after I'm gone, or at least the message or the energy behind it might be around long after I'm gone and was foundational for building something new and beneficial? Sure. Is it lofty? Yes. Is it cocky? Maybe a little bit. But it ain't just about me. I know that everything that I do, if it's rolled up in the God choice, that which is aligned with my highest good, aligned with the highest and best for all, and with the least amount of resistance for all involved, if I can make choices and decisions in my life based on that, what I share, what I teach, what I do, how I offer my services, how I just interact with other people, if it can be alignment with those God choice principles, then I know I'm leaving something behind that is bigger than me and leaves a legacy of light on this planet. And even if I never see the full culmination of that, I know that I was here and I did my part. That means a lot to me. And to keep stretching and kind of pushing beyond what is, what has been, is my sweet spot. I've always been a visionary. Ever since I was tiny, I saw the world differently. I felt things differently. I knew this from very early on in my life. I looked at the way things were done in the world, things that are the acceptable norms, and said, well, that's not that good for everybody. That seems to only work out for a few people. Ever since I can remember, I've been that way, since I was a tiny human. And so it makes perfect sense to me that I do what I do now. I see the world differently. And this is going into, and a nice segue into, the visionary qualities. Visionary leaders tend to have a vision of reality that doesn't necessarily resemble everyone else's vision of reality. It's a powerful way of projecting energy into the future and saying, well, this is the way it is now, but it could look like this. And it's a willingness to really have a big picture perspective. So this is the biggest part, I think, of cultivating visionary potential, is a willingness to look at the big picture. So in our everyday lives, we tend to not be very good at zooming out and seeing the big picture perspective because we are responding to life by who we are. Not how life is, because that's neutral. We don't see life as it is. We see life and the world as we are. So we're responding to life, interactions, people, scenarios, etc., at the level of our consciousness, and only to the limit of that level of consciousness. So if we're operating our lives from a place of lack, impoverishment of consciousness in any way, shape, or form, then that is how we are responding to life, to other people, situations, scenarios, etc. Very limiting, very contracted state of awareness, not necessarily the big picture. So we've got to be able to move beyond our wounding, because most of us respond to life at the level of our trauma, at the level of our wounding. Who are we beyond that? Everything. We are infinite, we are boundless, we are limitless. But we're not usually responding to life from this aspect. So it behooves us to constantly clear and release and identify shadow in our lives, and then work diligently to collapse it, remove it, dissolve it. So in order to see the big picture, we've got to remove the willingness that we have to respond to life at the level of our trauma. So the visionary, another part that's kind of an offshoot part of this, and we will talk about this more here in the group and work on this a great deal more in the group, is that we have more of a responsibility to remove our shadow than other people. We cannot languish in the energy of responding to life at the level of our wounding or trauma. That is a luxury we cannot afford. Hi, Victoria, welcome. Okay. So if you have something you want to contribute to the world or improve in day-to-day life, what can you contribute to your own day-to-day life that moves you out of the level of your wounding, out of the level of your trauma. Okay? In order to really have an untethered view, an undiminished, untainted view of the big picture, you've got to understand that you are looking at life from the level at which you are. So if you're in a fuck my life moment, and by the way, I do swear a lot, so if you have delicate ears, I'm sorry. But if you're having a lot of fuck my life moments, understand that this is what hobbles your vision. It diminishes your level of creativity. So you can't be a visionary and be able to have the purview of the big picture when you are in these constant day-to-day fuck my life moments. Thank you, Victoria. I know you have a potty mouth too. Okay, does that make sense? So there's a greater obligation for us who want to wear the moniker of visionaries, luminaries, divine disruptors. There's a greater responsibility, a greater accountability for us, and a bigger obligation to remove our shadow and to not live at the mercy of it in our lives, because you won't see the big picture vision from that level of perception. You just won't, because you're in a place of just grappling every day with survival. That is not a creative state. Okay. So having a vision is about a belief as well. So this is the next part of it. The visionary, has to really kind of fortify her resolve to hold a vision, not only to just create a vision, but to hold it, because it takes a long time in terms of 3D Earth and how things land in physical form and in density, to go from an idea, something that is literally pulled from higher dimensional realities through the fourth dimension of duality and becomes an inspiration. In order for that to take hold in physical reality, some things got to happen behind the scenes. There's got to be a lot of movement. There's got to be some kind of alchemical changes and shifts that need to take hold before that vision can be realized, actualized in the third dimension and become part of physical reality, okay? So this means that we not only create a vision, we have to hold it. So we have to be impenetrable to criticism. This is tough. This requires a certain mental resilience, mental toughness, that no matter what criticism comes at you from some external source or external influence, but also from our own inner critic. And as I've talked about many times, and those of you who are in the In Alignment program with me, I talk about this all the time. Your inner critic is a loser. Your inner critic is a loser. You will never be good enough, rich enough, skinny enough, smart enough, blah, blah, blah for your inner critic. Never, ever, ever, ever. And yet this is the voice that we try to placate and please in our head over and over and over again. It's not going to work. And when you are holding visionary energy, you're tapping into your visionary potential. This is the voice that will derail you every single time. You've got to develop an impenetrability to this voice, swaying you out of your vision, away from your vision. If you have a vision that is short-lived, it's an impression that never allows it to go through the creation cycle of becoming expression. And this is an important point, because visionaries are we're meant to be a conduit, we're meant to be a vehicle. Energy moves through us. Our visionary energy that cultivates as a concept, an idea, a way of being that takes the planet forward towards innovation, towards movement, towards something better, an improved way of being, thinking, believing, etc. It requires actualization. Because we as conduits, because that's what visionaries are, that's what visionaries, luminaries, and divine disruptors are. We are vehicles, we are conduits. Ideas and concepts don't come from us. They come through us because we have that receptivity, remember? So when we are, working with a vision, an idea, a concept, something is coming through us rather, not from us, not necessarily. We can bring our own unique perspective to it, and we nuance it and finesse it through our own individuated level of consciousness. And that's what makes each visionary so special, right? but it's not from us necessarily. It is through us, because all divine and inspiration and ideas come from source. And through us as the conveyance, as a human here in 3D Earth, we're the ones that bring it through, stabilize it, hold it long enough, and actualize it. Okay? This is really important. So that takes some time. We have to be able to be diligent with the vision so that it can move through us. If it's short-lived, it's fruitless. The impression never becomes expression. And in order to be divine conduits and have energy keep moving through us and allow for that suppleness, that fluidity, we have to allow impressions to become expressions, meaning once they get actualized in 3D, then we can divest ourselves of the energy, the creation cycle is complete, and then we can allow for the new ideas to come in. Not to say, does this make sense so far, what I'm talking about? So you can't be swayed by criticism. You can't be swayed by even your own inner critic. And a lot of times the visionary energy is about keeping your cards close to your chest. I don't share a lot outside of like certain intimate groups that I, teach or share, or online programs that I have. I don't share a lot of things that are coming in as new ideas and concepts, etc., because to me, it taints the energy. When especially I'm sharing it with other people who don't vibrate in the same bandwidth as me. Things that I might share, concepts that I might bring through are so esoteric, so nebulous to someone who doesn't navigate in the same bandwidth as me, that I'm making myself available for criticism. So I don't do that. Okay? And when I'm so adept with working with visionary energy. That's why I feel that I'm able to teach it and share it and talk about these concepts here in a kind of grounded way. I'm so adept at working with this energy that I know the feeling of when something comes in and it is meant for expression, meaning it's an impression, a concept, an idea, an inspiration, a nudge from the universe, whatever that is. It's a certain feeling that settles in my body, my place of truth specifically, which I'll share with you guys soon, that I know like, oh, this is good. This needs expression. And then I tend to keep my cards very close to my chest. And I allow for the receptivity of what could this look like? What could this feel like? I'm willing to be led. In other words, it's a very feminine energy. There's a softness, there's a flow to that. Instead of pushing and forcing an outcome like it's going to look like this and I'm going to do it this week and it's going to be like this and then it's going to look like that over time. It's one thing to be able to hold that energy, but there's a difference between whether you want to force it and push it or whether you want to say, it could look like that. It could be like that. What if it doesn't? I can be open. I can be available. Do you feel the difference in the softness? And it's like a pulling. That's okay, Carolyn will be here in the group. It's like a pulling rather than a pushing. Okay? This is constantly what we're going to go back to in here. And we're going to cultivate and build this in here. Okay? So it's not just about the dream. It's not just about holding the vision, holding the dream. That's just the starting point. So it's not just wishful thinking for the visionary. You're open to what could be the next step here. And it's not like you have to roll the whole thing out immediately. It's about openness. And again, that suppleness in your thinking, that fluidity in thinking, that what could the next step of this look like? It's an openness. It's an availability, a receptivity. Okay? In the group that I'm teaching next, it starts next week, Wednesday, as a matter of fact, Tao of the Divine Disruptor, we go much, much deeper into what this is and fleshing this out, the availability for the next step. And this, how do you really do it with your energy being pulled rather than pushing and forcing? It's more about softness and feminine receptivity than it is pushing and forcing outcomes and kind of a toxic masculine type of energy, okay? But we have a work ethic, meaning we're willing to see it through. Now, some of us, and we'll talk about this here, I've got a whole talk planned about Starters versus finishers. I'm a really good starter. I'm really, really good at being able to take an idea and give it life, give it some foundation, maybe even get to the middle point with it. But I have to work a little bit harder at finishing it out, meaning getting to the completion stage where it sees expression. Being a finisher is not my strong point. I can do it, but a lot of times I can do it because I'm calling in energies that are higher than myself to help with the completion stages. And I allow myself and have the true willingness to be led at the very end when I need to finish something or it needs to see completion or expression. In the beginning, I don't need any help. I can be a very free and open conduit to receiving ideas and inspiration. That's why I'm such a prolific content creator. I'm constantly open and available. I see myself as a conduit, ideas, concepts, new ways of being that lead to new courses, programs, teachings, books, etc. I allow them to come through me. They don't come from me, not necessarily. Okay. I might add the kind of personal finesses to it, but nothing comes from me necessarily. And so I invite you to be open in your thinking to that. So we're going to talk about that there, that, think about yourself as what kind of visionary you are. Are you a starter or are you a finisher? Okay. Another aspect of tapping into your visionary potential is a willingness to try new ideas. So this really involves having suppleness in your thinking. A lot of visionaries that I've worked with, including my own visionary potential, looks like this. I don't like things that are inside the box. I like things that are outside the box. I like people who think differently. I like to surround myself by people who think differently, who look at the world differently, who kind of feel like they're in that liminal space in between worlds, because that's very much how I see myself. You may see yourself in that way. And if you do, let me know here, because you're in the right place. If you feel like even ideas and concepts before you might have rejected because you thought, but no one else is doing that. And I'm constantly trying to find a niche for myself. And so, this doesn't really look like anything else that's out there. That's your sweet spot. Because that's what will allow you to be visible to, believe me, those other people who resonate with your energy. If you have a willingness in connection again, in a marketplace that is so convoluted and so saturated as the spiritual awakening community, you have an obligation to speak the truth of your authenticity, to be, in integrity with who you are, is to fully honor the truth of, I do things and I see things and I feel things differently. I'm in between two worlds. That is your magic. That is your magnetism. We talked about that at the very beginning, right? And you're always willing to try something new from that space. You get excited about testing new ideas out. Do they always work? No. But is that okay? Yes, because there's no such thing as failure. You're just trying it on. Thanks, Patricia. I will be seeing you in the ethers very soon. So you're willing to try on different hats, try out new ideas, do things differently. Does it always work out? No. But here's the thing. It will always lead you to another new idea. It will always lead you to something new, something innovative. And everything about how we anchor New Earth now is about innovation. And it's going to come from thinking outside of the box. Okay? So being a visionary also, cultivating this, and we're going to talk about this in here, is how do you know when to leave something behind then? How do you know that you've wrung it out dry and there's nothing left there? That's something we're going to talk about in here as well. You have to be unafraid of change. That just because you've invested a certain amount of time into something and you've put momentum into something even, it's okay to pull the plug on it. Because if it feels off in your place of truth, it's not the time. Maybe it never will be, and that's okay too. But you're able to see how an idea can be beneficial long-term. And if it doesn't, you have to be able to see past any kind of ego attachment you have to, but I invested so much time and energy and blah, blah, blah into this. It's okay. You're a visionary. You're here to try out new ideas. In that sense, there's no failure. Okay. There's a kind of, What brings the magnetism to you is the kind of enthusiasm. Now, those of you who have been following me for a while and you're in my courses and programs, etc., you watch my YouTube videos, all those things, you know that I kind of have this enthusiasm. I get really ecstatic and pumped up and excited and passionate about the things that I teach. You know, even if I'm having a fuck my life moment, you probably won't know, because the passionate energy and the enthusiasm that I bring to what I share, because I genuinely have a desire to want to leave this planet in a better way than I found it, that is what I infuse into each live that I do, each interaction that I share, each program that I build out. It is about infectious enthusiasm, and the visionary often has that. So even though, you know, it's not something you feel all the time, it's about going back into that energy of the big picture, of the things that you're working on over and over again, and feeling into the things that are working out rather than the things that aren't. Because one energy is going to lead you into greater ideas and concepts and a momentum that builds your enthusiasm out. And the other energy, focusing on things that aren't working out or fuck my life moments, is not. It's depleting. It's harnessing and siphoning off energy rather than replenishing your creative input. Okay? Or output. Okay? Persistence. We talked about this, building out a long-term vision. The visionary is more invested in long-term fulfillment rather than short-term gain. So visionary energy doesn't always look like, I'm going to put out something and it's like, I want short-term instant gratification. Visionary energy is not like that. Visionary energy is more about, I'm in it for the long haul. I'm in it for the long-term fulfillment, not only for me, because I'm building out something for the planet as well. So visionary energy, the persistence, it's got to be there. It's got to be there. So there has to be a certain kind of dedication, a kind of commitment. And to be honest, the visionary, the luminary, the divine disruptor wouldn't have it any other way. They just don't give up. They don't give up. There's a certain tenacity in their energy that no matter what, they don't give up. They don't believe in failure. And as I talked about just a second ago, it's a willingness to keep trying new ideas. So when you're in that energy, failure is not an option. You can't be in those energies at the same time, feeling like you're a failure and also having willingness to try new ideas. Those energies are mutually exclusive. They cancel each other out. Okay. So visionary energy is about, a willingness to persist. They don't give up. Something didn't work, maybe 10 things didn't work. They keep going. They keep doing it. What's really interesting is the guy that, Dyson, the guy who created the vacuums, and now it's like hair dryers and all this other stuff. Before he created the flagship vacuum, that is, Dyson's model that sells for hundreds and hundreds of dollars, I think. He had thousands of prototypes. Something like 5,000 prototypes. So that's a visionary. He didn't give up. He didn't feel like, I'm out of resources here, I can't keep going. It was like unknowing. It's like, and when the visionary is really in her zone, tapping into the fullness of her potential, there's unknowing. It's like, yeah, but I see this thing. I feel it. I see how it works in the world. I see how people use it. I see its utilitarian benefits. I see how it benefits the greater good of all. So it's like being in that energy. How can you stop doing it? You can't. When you're tapping into the fullness of your visionary potential, you keep going. So these are just some of the things that I wanted to illuminate for you and get you excited about and get the creative juices flowing and give you a kind of template for what you can expect in this space. So I need to sign off because I'm doing a DNA activation at noon. But I want you to, as you sit with these energies and maybe even listen to this call again, get excited. Think about when you create your own journal and set aside your own journal for this space. What are your hopes and ambitions for this space? What do you want to learn? What do you want to get out of this? What would you like this group to provide for you? Okay. And feel free to share this with me. Feel free to create a post about why you're excited about being here. What drew you to this group? Why did you plunk down your $22 and say, ooh, this is something I can get behind. This is already some energy I'm working with, and I can't really put my finger on or articulate what it is yet, but I think I need to invest in this. I think I need to go this way. What made you want to do that? What are you working on? It's okay to share in this space. Every group I create, I cultivate a place of deep support, a place of protection, a place that's like a safe harbor. It's a sanctuary. All of my groups have that. I create that space in integrity every single time. So this is a safe place to share. We're all women in here, so if that makes you feel even safer that we are amongst women, and there's no competition here. I don't believe in that. There's no such thing. And I don't certainly cultivate any spaces that agree with that false concept. So this is a safe place to share and to build something. So use this. This is our space that we get to use together. To the degree that you engage in here and have a give and take, you're going to be able to build so much more out with your vision and capitalize on this visionary potential you already own, you already have. Use this space for that, okay? So we will kick things off officially next week. So when we are kicking things off next week, we start on the 14th. And we're going to go live right here in the group at 12 p.m. Pacific time to do our first guided journey for the group, Awakening Your Visionary Timelines. So let's work with all of the timelines where you're already exploring your visionary potential, doing other things, bringing other things, allowing yourself to be a conduit for other more beneficial things to, come into the expression. Let's explore that. Let's bring those in and let's cultivate and merge all of that potential into your now dominant timeline. I'm so excited to share that with you. So I'll have the full schedule of details in the featured posts, the announcements of this group. Depending on where you are in the world, it says featured or it says announcements. But it'll be in there, the schedule for April, the dates and times that we're having all the events here in this group. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for being here. Love and peace to you all. Mwah. Bye-bye.